Hey TD superheroes, my name is Alejandro Perez. I am your sidekick, and in this video we're going to expand on the tool that we created in the last video in this series. So far we have this and it works, but there are a few issues with it, so we'll take a look at the issues and then we will go through and make it work as good as we can. So let's look at some of the issues first. Here, this controller is working. The only problem is that it looks like the box around it, which makes it hard to distinguish that this is the control versus this. We don't want to be able to select this controller. And then, so we're going to end up templating this. We are going to change the color of this curve right here. Then we're going to add a name up here, so that way we know what is being controlled. And then also when I select this one, which we won't directly select it, but we'll move it, I want to be able to move this with it so that it goes with it as well. And there's going to be a few little gotchas, and we'll look at how to get around them once we get to them. All right. So let's add a argument in this function. So control name, I was just going to do name at first. The problem with that is that we already have a name flag that we commonly use. So I'm going to do control name so that way we know it's something different. So I'm going to make it CTRL for right now. So let's expand this and let's add a flag here for the name equals CTRL name. And it's not just going to be that. Let's see what we want to do. So this is the frame. So this is going to be, for right now, just frame underscore CTRL name. So we got to do a plus. And then with the circle, we'll do a thing like that. So right now it's just CTRL, but I'm going to end it in CTRL as well. So what I want to do is name equals side, which we won't get into yet, but then CTRL name plus underscore CTRL. So in this case, it's just going to be control, but in the future, we're going to be naming things different. This is just to test it. So we can see frame control and control. Okay, so we have the actual objects named, which is good. So if we were to run this a second time, you'll see that we get right control. We get two of them. One is with the CTRL and one is with the control. So that's great. Okay, so that's step one. Let's look at making the circle a color that we can use. So I'm going to do MC dot list relatives, and we're going to say circle controls. And then we're going to end up trying to get the shape node from here, because right now we're just working with the transform node. Let's print shape so that we have access to that, see what's going on. So here's the object right there. Actually, it doesn't need it. We don't need to get directly into the shape node. Is that true? So we have circle control. Okay, that's the only relative we have is the shape node. So let's clear these. And we only need one right now, so let's clear that. Okay, so we have the shape node. Once we do this, it's the first item on the list. So what we can do is say shape equals shape 0. That way we just have to use the word shape. Makes things a little bit easier. And then here, what we want to do, if we run this, we can see we have the control. We need to go into the attribute editor. We are at the shape node, so object display, drawing overrides, enable overrides. So that's one thing we need to do. And then we need to change the color, and we're going to change it to yellow. There we go. Here we can see that it doesn't give us the code, but we'll figure it out in a minute. But this first thing we need to do is important. So let's take shape, or mc.set adder shape plus override enabled to 1. So let's clear these and we'll run this again. It says no object. Oh, because I forgot the dot. There we go. Let's try that one more time. And this time we can see that we have the enable overrides turned on. So that's good for us. Let's clear this. Okay, so now we need to go into setting up the colors. So even though we don't know the actual command or the attribute name, we can figure this out. I've done it before, so I know what it is, and I'll let you guys know. So it's going to be mc.set adder shape plus dot color override. So color override is that color attribute that we need to do. And let's just set this to 1 for right now, but it's going to be a specific number. So if we look at our scene now, let's see, did we get an error? We did get an error. Oh, override. Oops, I did that backwards. It's override color. So override color. Let's try that again. There we go. No errors this time. And if we look over here, let's deselect it. Did it change it? Yeah. So we have a different color. So how do we know what color we need for a specific object? Here we can see it's at black. At 0, we have this. And we can go through the spectrum of different options. But this is what we want is yellow. So it starts off 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and so forth. I believe this is 17 for yellow. So let's clear this scene and try it with 17. So there's a lot of different colors. But here we can see it's yellow. That's what we want. Makes it easy to see that that's the control. Okay, so let's take a look at setting up the name to this object. So I'm going to do let's hold it into a variable. We'll say this name tag. Yeah, because we already have a CTRL name. Okay, so we have that. And then let's do mc.text curves. Let's see, curve text curve. Let me pause for a moment and find out what the actual command was. It's something along these lines. Yep, it was. I was just missing an S. Text curves. And then I'm going to say text, which I believe is the command, and then we're going to say CTR, not in quotes, that CTRL name. Okay, and then let us clear the scene here and run this. That's fine, that's just for the text, but we can see that we have the control name. Let's see what we get when we print the name tag. I'm sure it'll be this group right here. So text control 1 is the first one, and then make curves. Okay, cool. So let's set this name also. We're going to do comma n for name equals ctrl name plus underscore tag. Okay, so there we go. CTRL tag, and then it goes shape because it's always adds shape with this at the end. So let's put another underscore so it's a little bit easier to distinguish. Okay, cool. That is good. That is what we want. Now let's go ahead and I'm going to scale it and move it. So I want it in the top left. So it's going to be up in Y and -1 in X. So let's do mc dot set adder, then name tag plus dot ty. It's going to be 1. And then mc dot set adder name tag plus dot tx, and that's going to be -1. And close parentheses on it. Error line 15. So this first one says can only concatenate this not string. Oh, because this was a list. Let's put 0 here, because when we did this, it had 2 objects in it. So let's do that. There we go. That is closer to what we want. We can see it's centered there, but we added 0.25 to it. So let's do 0.25 and 0.25. There we go. That is where we want it. And then I am just going to take the scale. So mc dot set adder. And I'll copy this. Dot sx. And let's say we put it like at 0.5. And then I'm going to copy this whole line and paste it 2 more times, but this time it's going to be sy and sz, even though it doesn't have a z depth, and that way we keep it consistent. There we go. That looks like an appropriate size. So if we were to say this was like the L underscore I, for example, it'll look something like that. Okay, I like it. I'll do C underscore control. Name it like that for right now. Okay, so we have this set up now. Now we want to template the box. So we have square. Let's print square to see what we get. It's just the name of the object, so that's good. So it's going to be mc.set adder square plus dot template 1. There you go. So the square is templated. We can't select it at all. We can't select the circle, and we can select these. So we can template all of these curves or the top group for this. But the other thing we can do, we'll see that if we parent it underneath the square, it becomes templated. The only other problem is that if we try to template this curve or put it in there, we can't select it. So we need to figure out a way to get this control separate So let's do the first thing that we know. We want to put the name and the square together. So MC dot parent, do square. Actually, I think the parent has to be less. If not, I'll do it over again. And then name tag 0. And then we need to close parentheses. And let's clear this and see how this looks. I think that's correct. Yep, that's correct. It's all together here. And then we have this. The only problem is if we have this and we move it, it doesn't go with it. So let's fix that. Okay, so how are we going to get this working properly so that way we can have it move with the control? What we can do is do a constraint. So like target object to be constrained, and then we will do a under animation constrain, something like a parent constraint, and that will work. Let's select it here. Kind of work. Okay, well, I know what the problem is, but the problem is on the control here, we have those limits that go 0 to 1 on this object, but we're trying to move this object past that realm and it won't let it because we set those limits. So it will follow it up to that point. So how do we get around that? It's not too difficult. Let's clear this scene here and then run this code again. And then what we're going to do is take this control, group it, then target object to be constrained. We're going to select the group for the object to be constrained, constrain parent. Now what you'll see is if we move this, it's going to go completely with it without jittering out. We can rotate it and it stays in the same plane. And because it's part of that group, you'll see that we stay within its limits anyways, no matter in what orientation we're looking at this control from. So that is what we need to do. Let's do MC dot group, and we are going to group the circle or CTRL, I believe it's what it was called. Circle CTRL. And then comma name equals, let's try that again. There we go. Name equals, we're going to say CTRL name plus, and right now we're just going to say GRP. We'll call it 0 group. 0 GRP. So we have that group here, 0 GRP. And then we need to set the constraint. So it'll be MC dot, actually, let's run this so that we can see how they do it. Target object to be constrained, constrain parent. So it's going to be a parent constraint, maintain offsets, and a weight of 1. That's fine. It did it based off of the selection already, so let's just try parent constraint. The target is going to be the square. Object to be constrained is going to be this group. So let's rename this, or let's make this a variable, grp equals, and then let's say grp. And I think for what we're doing, that's all we need to do. Let's test this. So here you can see that we have the constraints on the control. If we select this, it moves it with it, and we can still move this control with it. That's great. So now that we have that, let's just take the group. So mc.group, I'm going to group the square and the GRP together. Let's name it, it's going to be CTRL name plus underscore main GRP. So now we get one node here, the main GRP. Let's see if we move this, if it's going to cause any issues. It doesn't. That is good. So I think that's how we will move the whole control. And then we will get this. I guess technically we didn't need to do this constraint if we didn't want to. We could just group it together. But I like this way. It just kind of creates an extra level of making sure that it all stays together. But it's also an extra level of something that can break. So I guess leave it up to you. Because if we broke that constraint and just had the control inside of this main group, we can't select this box anyways. But if we select the main group, we can move it all together, and then it still works properly. And then the only problem is if we select this, you can break it. So with the previous method that we had with it, there we go. With the constraint as well, we can move the group. And if somebody gets here and selects the frame and they move it, it still moves with it. So it's a little bit safer, but both will work. I'm going to leave it the way we have it right now. It's just a little bit extra control. And if I just put this, oops, I just want this, and let's make this full screen so that you guys can see it. As big as it fits in here. Let's just delete this one space. There you go. That is what the code looks like for this control. So we made it a little bit more user friendly, and we haven't integrated it into the other script yet, but we'll save that for the next video. This is already going quite long. So we do have a more functional control though that you guys can work with, and it is going to be integrated a lot easier with this naming, and we're going to make the naming a little bit more flexible once we integrate it into the script, but this is the start of that. All right, that is it for this video. Let's clear this, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye.